We're back on politics, continuing my conversation with Illinois Democratic Congressman Mike Quigley of Illinois' 5th District. Congressman, let's turn to the domestic agenda. You go back next week, Senate's already there. You know, the one thing everybody thinks might be accomplished is an infrastructure plan. The president thinks he can work with Democrats on that. But I don't think it goes anywhere because he wants Illinois to pay for the roads, mostly, with a little help. And Democrats, of course, say let the feds fund it.
Yeah, he's lost the concept of what the federal government's supposed to do here, right? It was Eisenhower's interstate plan, right? He built interstates after he saw why it mattered so much during wartime when he was in Europe. And that was federally government paid. Sure, Illinois has its needs. We have the worst roads in the country. The Chicago Transit Authority always needs resources. That carries more people in a month than Amtrak does in a year. So it's absolutely vital to our economy. We have a lot of things we need to do, but where will the resources be after this tax plan? We're now $1 trillion more in debt over the next 10 years, with the economy, according to Goldman Sachs and the Tax Institute, growing only minimally because of that tax bill. So where to get the funding? He's already poo-pooed what he supported before, which was public-private partnerships. He's telling the states, you're going to have to do this. So what exactly is the federal government going to do under his plan?
Now, just given Illinois has no money, so let's put that aside for a moment. But if I live in another state, I might be saying, why should I pay for the roads in Illinois? I mean, you pay for your roads.
Yeah, we all pay for each other's roads. It's the idea of a common people working to a greater goal together. So that's why the federal government is instrumental in infrastructure, right? Even during the Great Depression, we dreamed big about infrastructure and we built bigger, right? I mean, we built the Hoover Dam during the Depression, and the Conservation Corps did all this work of infrastructure that's in place. Extraordinarily important things for all of us. India, China, and Europe, all right, are great economic competitors. They're not sitting by the wayside while we sit and decide this. They're growing their economies by outspending us on infrastructure, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, and 5-to-1.
You mentioned a couple of different things I want to take apart in there. First of all, expenditures or Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, entitlements. Those are things President said, you won't touch them on my watch. Paul Ryan goes, yeah, we'll touch these. What happens with those?
Yeah, let's just go back in history, right? President Reagan did tax reform. It was bipartisan, and it actually was done to save the entitlement programs. The tax plan that they just signed into law will actually imperil them. There are Senate rules that are going to probably ratchet down automatically spending on Medicare and Medicaid. But clearly, we have manufactured an even greater debt and deficit problem. And when the deficit hawks wake up again and say, hey, we've got to do something about this, their target's not going to be the military. And they're clearly not going to try to raise new revenues because they just cut taxes for the 1%. No, they're going to go after entitlement programs.
Your Republican colleague, Peter Roskam, has said, stop worrying about that state and local tax provision. You got to look at everything as a whole. But I think most analysis pretty much say that we in Illinois are in deep trouble over this plan. Many of us, I'm included, prepaid my taxes, property taxes for next year, hoping it'll do some good next year. And then, of course, that one trick goes away. 2 points. Number one, do the Republican congressmen, all of whom voted for that tax plan, do they pay a price, or do you think Republicans in those suburban districts are okay with that vote? And then, well, answer that one first.
Yeah, I mean, I think we look at my colleague, Mr. Roskam's district, right? Glen Ellen, Wheaton, Naperville, they pay some pretty hefty property taxes. Clearly, that cap isn't going to help them. State and local is going to impact the district pretty dramatically. I don't think they did their constituents any good. Whether their constituents realize this or come to terms with this and strike back, that's going to be up to them.
Some states like California are putting forth legislation, I'm not sure this would be in your bailiwick, but get your reaction to it, to basically say, okay, fine, you've done this to us, here's what we're going to do. We're going to say, don't pay state taxes, we're going to make them charitable contributions to the state. We're going to redo something with this to make them deductible again. What do you think of that?
No, I'm hearing about that on the House floor. I'm hearing members say that they're proposing to their governors in these states like California, New York, and Illinois, that they're going to have to do something.
Will you do that here?
Absolutely. I mean, first, they just signed this before Christmas. We're past the holiday season. Unfortunately, my governor may not listen to me, but I'm be glad to work with the General Assembly to try to propose and pass legislation here to protect my constituents.
Is that something that all candidates for governor, Democrats, they ought to grab onto this as a topic in the upcoming election?
Absolutely. I mean, if you were to poll people about what they're concerned about, in Chicago, I suspect it's about education. I suspect it's about safety issues and their property tax.
Health care. This tax plan also took a whack, right? Got rid of the mandate. How much in trouble are people here in Illinois and around the country with Obamacare? It's not the death knell for Obamacare, but it didn't help.
Well, first of all, the lack of, they've undermined Obamacare for some time now. All we've done the last 6 years under the Obama administration is try to repeal it. But the Trump administration has gone much further to cut out funding for things like education about this and letting people know about signing up. So they're undermining it, and this is going to be a big one. This is going to knock off maybe 13 million people right out of the box.
Will people feel it by November of 2018
Absolutely.
when they vote?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure exactly which states will be hurt the most, but clearly it will hurt states that voted for President Trump.
DACA dreamers, nationally, Republicans and Democrats agree that we should find a way to keep most of these people here. The president has said you've got until March. Paul Ryan, you know, back when Democrats tried to make it part of the deal in December, no problem, we've got till March. What are you rushing it for? Well, March is just about here, and I don't see anything happening.
Yeah, Congress never waits, never does something right away. It is always the last possible minute, and I think that's what's going to happen here. I would like to think that the Republicans in Congress will push back on the president talking about conditions to do this, like funding the wall.
Well, what about the wall? That seems to be a non-starter for Democrats, but if it takes funding a wall to keep these dreamers here, would you do it?
No. I mean, this is not what this was about in the first place. This is about dreamers, people who were born, you know, who have been here almost their whole lives. They know no other country but the United States. It's the wrong thing to do, to put them in the middle.
The funding runs out, I think January 16th is the upcoming day, 16th or 19th.
No.
I'm guessing we don't have a plan. We kick it down we kick the can down the road a little bit more, potentially until March when CHIP comes up. What is your sense of what happens as you go back and you've got funding issues?
I'm hoping that we come up with either a continuing resolution or a larger omnibus to take us toward the end of the year. I think the tax bill affects a lot of this, and we haven't had all that shake out yet to know exactly what the ramifications are. We're going to have the same conditions on this. We're going to try to correct the mistakes of the tax bill to try to continue funding for all the programs and the people that we care about. It will be a struggle.
Okay, we're out of time, but a yes or no. Does something get accomplished before the November elections, or do the elections put a stalemate?
I think it's going to be extraordinarily difficult to do anything other than just fund our government at a minimal level until November.
All right, Congressman Mike Quigley, thanks for being with us.